Welcome to Positivity in Action, the podcast where we explore the power of positive psychology in everyday life and during life's toughest moments. I'm your host, Tracy. I run Truly Listening. And as each week, we are going to dive into inspiring stories of how people have used positive psychology to overcome hardship, build resilience, and create meaningful lives. From self compassion, personal growth, and to strength found in community, we're here to shine a light on positive practices that help us rise above the noise of negativity that's in this world. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's get started. Welcome to this week's podcast. We are here this week with Trish, who is a menopause coach and an emotional wellbeing facilitator. She is going to tell us all about herself to start off with, and then we are going to hear the story that she wants to share. So, can you tell us a bit about yourself, Trish? What's your background? What do you do? Spill the beans.
Okay, so thanks for having me, Tracy. I am Trish the Menopause Coach, and I specialize in helping women naturally overcome emotional challenges, either caused by menopause or midlife changes. The different root causes to all this. And I became a menopause coach from my own personal experience, and today I'm looking at explaining my journey into what I now call open-mindedness, and also my experience with alternative therapy and the things I've learned along the way that's changed my life and I now use to help other women change their life and live a more positive life, I think.
I'm so excited about this. I'm kind of perimenopausal myself, so I'm waiting for all the tips that you can give me through the session. I could do with them most days. So, what was your kind of turning point that started you off on all this exploration that you had?
Yeah, so I'm in the same place you are. I'm still going through perimenopause. 6 years in, so it is a long journey. Sorry,
Oh, thanks for that.
don't want to scare you. But that's the thing, until I started going through perimenopause and then went through all the symptoms, I had not heard the term perimenopause. So you're in a better place than I was at the age of yeah, at the age of 43 when all the symptoms came out of nowhere. So before then, I was just living my life, had a very good career working as a company secretary, and I was a governance consultant with multinationals. And I thought, I was in control of everything.
Mm.
Until then, everything I wanted to do, I put my mind to it and I got it done. And so I was quite proud of myself. Then started having all the symptoms. And the most challenging symptom for me was I started experiencing anxiety
Mm.
and never been someone to, I've never had to deal with it. I've always been that sort of person that can analyze why do I feel this way and how do I address it. But my brain just stopped working. The whole processing aspect of it disappeared. It was just overwhelming anxiety. And I couldn't tell you why.
Yeah.
And there was the low moods. And as I said, my life was perfect. I couldn't tell you why I was having low moods. It just felt like a blanket, but there was nothing wrong. Everything else
Mm.
on the outside was perfect. Then I started getting really emotional. And I've never been a really emotional crying person, but I could cry watching an advert. I still cry watching an advert now, which I think I'm balanced, but I still am a lot more emotional than where I was then. So I knew
Mm.
something was wrong, and I kept on trying to analyze it. And because I'd never dealt with all these emotions, all one after the other, it's not like one let up and no, it was just one after the other. For the first time in my life, I was at doctors almost every week going, something's wrong, something's wrong. And then I started having exhaustion, fatigue at a level I'd never had before. And that's when I went to the doctors and went, there's something really wrong. They only took the exhaustion very seriously. The rest of the emotions, I was told, you're working too hard. take holidays, you're stressed. I did everything I was told. I was giving multivitamins. I was giving something called Calm. I was
Mm,
yeah, I was having stomach pain. I was told I had IBS. They everything, you know, that could be was I was told that's what it's likely to be. Then they gave me blood tests to find out why I was experiencing this extreme fatigue,
mm.
and there was nothing wrong. And so after multiple tests in different countries, because I was in South America then, I had a test in Guyana, which is in South America. I had a test in Barbados, one in Miami, and lastly in the UK, because I knew there was something wrong.
Yeah.
And this was over a 3-year period of struggling. And no one could tell me what it was. And it got to the point where I just pulled away because, okay, on the outside, my life was perfect, but I could tell
Mm,
people I was depressed or I felt low. You know, it just seemed like I was being selfish. What else do you want? You
yeah.
know, so it got to the point that I had to walk away from my job because I just was not coping
Mm,
anymore. It's just everything felt overwhelming.
yeah.
And for me, that was the breaking point that I think was the trajectory to let's find out what's happening, let's find out. And I decided to do my own research
Mm.
and spoke to anybody who was willing to talk to me, which was shocking in the UK because some of the questions I was asking was making people uncomfortable. But yeah, I was willing to ask any questions about intimacy, whatever, anything that I was struggling with, I would ask you, oh, are you a woman with, have you experienced this? And I got the whole, and
And did everyone go like bright red and hide in a corner?
bright red, and because the doctors told me to start going to the gym, maybe that would make me feel better. So I went to classes and I was willing to talk to everybody that was willing to talk
Mm,
to me. And someone mentioned, have you looked into perimenopause? And I was like, what's that? And that's how I found out that I was going through perimenopause, even though the doctors at the end still told me that my emotional issues had nothing to do with perimenopause.
yeah, this is all quite interesting because I've recently been diagnosed with long COVID for like the last 4 years. But where you're explaining a lot of your symptoms, a lot of them would match what's already been diagnosed as something different.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting to I might have to go and do more research for myself now, which is that's a dangerous hyper focus for me.
It's true. Some women get diagnosed with fibromyalgia.
Mm,
I've worked with women who said, I've got fibromyalgia, and I'm like, okay, let's address perimenopause symptoms and see how you feel.
yeah.
And they 1 year down the line or 6 months down the line, they're going, oh no, the fatigue is gone. I don't feel like that anymore. The
Mm.
space out is gone. And you're going, yeah.
Now I'm even more interested. So start giving me your practices. I need to know where to go. So what did you find that really helped you?
So for me, initially, all my research, and I did a lot of research, pointed me to HRT. I
Mm,
know a lot of people, because of the research on HRT, I beat, reluctant going down that route. But what I can say is I'm using it,
mm,
and I come from an African background. My parents do not believe in medication, and I can tell you that I have not taken pharmaceutical medication until maybe about 15.
mm.
And anything maybe when I was younger, I didn't know anything else. My mom will go for herbs first, and there was
Yeah.
herbs for everything. So I'm not the type to rush into pharmaceuticals, but
Mm,
I have done my research, and there is nothing out there that is as effective at managing some of those symptoms, especially the long-term conditions that come with estrogen deficiency. So
mm.
I got on HRT, expecting it to fix everything. My fatigue let up, which was great. I was very happy with that. But my anxiety, low moods, and just feeling numb half the time, that remained.
Yeah.
So, and went back to the doctors, and they said, we told you that that all these emotional things got nothing to do with um with menopause,
Hmm.
just a coincidence they came at the same time. So since you've done everything, I was exercising like every day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they were like, health wise, everything, you got a clean bill of health. Yes, antidepressants. Go take antidepressants.
Mm.
And as I said, I know for a fact, I've worked in the NHS, that every medication, pharmaceutical you put in your body, up to a certain extent, it's got a side effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went back. I took the prescription because I'd gone to the doctors so many times. It got to the point that the doctors were like, there's nothing we can do for you. We've told you what you can do, and you keep on refusing it. So I
Mm.
took the prescription. I think I had it back here, and took it home and said, should I take this? And I thought, looked at all the side effects, knew of aunties and friends who'd taken it, and I've got
Mm.
nothing against it. And I thought at this point, I would rather look if there are any alternative. This happened to me naturally. Okay. Is there any way I can naturally address it? Hormone replacement therapy, I understood that naturally I can't get my ovaries to start creating,
Yeah.
yeah, those hormones again. So the only way to help is to give my body the hormone that it needed.
Mm.
So HRT made sense. And even that, I still went for everything had to be body identical. I went to the doctor. I don't want this. This is synthetic. I want that. I did my research and I went to get what I believe could be as body identical as possible. So when it came to my emotions, I said, this happened naturally. How can I fix it naturally? Is there a natural
Yeah.
way to go down? And that's where I started trying everything. I tried CBT. It helped to a certain extent,
Mm.
but I was still struggling. The anxiety felt like it faded because I could try to talk myself out of it, but it just
Mm.
felt like it was still running in the background.
Yeah. No, I understand what you mean.
So I didn't feel like I was where I want to be. And I was still a shadow of my former self. My confidence was
Mm.
gone. I did not apply for a job. Um, and I was, because I just didn't feel the confidence I could do the job
Yeah.
to where down. So I was there just in this limbo where I was not the person I used to be. Socially, I wasn't going out. And I just wanted to go back to the woman I used to be, the happy, go lucky, confident woman I used to be. And I thought a medication would not do that for me, to be honest.
Mm.
It might help the anxiety let up. But this is not just anxiety anymore. It's sort of changed my personality. So kept on checking. I read all the self-help book. I did positive psychology.
Yes.
Yeah. Then someone told me about hypnotherapy.
Mm.
Never believed in hypnotherapy. Total skeptic. Uh, to me, I think my idea of hypnotherapy was Little Britain, looking to my eyes and all that. It's just practical show
Mm-hmm.
sort of hypnotherapy, not clinical hypnotherapy. So I'd never
Yeah.
seen hypnotherapy from the clinical side, more the show side of it, which is meant to entertain rather than, you
Mm.
know. So anyway, at this point, it was either take this medication to see if it will help, or so, which is when I did hypnotherapy. And
Mm.
until the day I was working with the person, she was in the US, and so we worked virtually. And that gave me a lot of confidence. One, this is something I'd never done, but I was in the comfort of my own home. And
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt very comfortable in my own things. So when we worked, even while she was putting me on, I kept on saying, I'm not sure this is going to work. I was skeptical to the last minute, but the result was like night and day. Like it was so fast.
Yeah.
I realized it was so fast because I'd done CBT, positive psychology, on which consciously I was already working on it, but the subconscious
Mm,
was still had all those things, those changes embedded pattern. I know it was like so, but then I didn't know the role of subconscious. I did not
mm,
understand the whole concept of these two parts of my mind. So when I did that, I realized, I think it was within a week, I'd applied for a new job. The next week, I'd gotten offered a job.
mm,
My confidence came, like, it just felt like somebody put a dress back on me. And for me, that was the biggest eye opener to alternative therapy, which I had never considered ever. So
mm.
that was that's what changed my life. And after that, I went to the same woman and said, I'm going to train. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, so I trained in cognitive therapy as a module. I trained in hypnotherapy, clinical hypnotherapy, and then NLP,
Mm,
because I feel like it's a bridge. You can't, if you do hypnotherapy, NL aspect of NLP is in there. So I decided I would do that separately. So I trained in all three and now use all three because I knew that it was the conscious work and the subconscious work that even
yeah.
though I did at a different time, that made that change that felt so natural and so fast. And so now
Mm.
when I work with people, I actually use both to work with them to get the
Yeah,
result.
and that makes sense. Having that kind of taking the top level and working all the logical parts and then the underneath parts as well, not just ignoring that it exists or ignoring feeling your actual emotions, let's just brush them off. That doesn't really work.
Yeah, but it takes that's I felt like, I guess because I've never had emotional challenges, I've never had to deal with them. I've always been a practical person. Oh, I feel
Mm,
sad. Why? Until now, that's until 6 years ago, that was me. I
mm,
feel sad. There is a why. And if you couldn't tell me a why, I got irritated. Like, what's wrong with you? So that's why when I started experiencing it and there was no why, I didn't make
mm.
sense to myself. So it didn't make sense to tell other people I was feeling that way, because how could I be having all these emotions and there was no reason why? My life was,
Yeah.
better than a lot of people were still just, getting on with it. And here I was. So I think it opened my eyes to appreciate, one, the role of hormones, which I never appreciated. I just thought we got on with it. Uh,
I know. I didn't appreciate them either until they started to really get interesting.
yeah. So, and then also opened my eye to positive psychology, something we never
Mm,
thought about. But now realize, even in our upbringing, our parents have been instilling that into us, and
yeah.
if society finds a way of taking it out, but in some ways we've been instilled. So when I was doing that, I understood some of the things my parents used to say to get us to look at that positive side of things. And also alternative therapy, which is something I have never opened my mind to. And since then, I've been like, stretching myself more, see what's out there.
I understand. As you fully know, I do shamanic energy work and all kinds of things. So I'm big on the alternative therapies as well. And I think mixing them can be the most powerful thing. because you're mixing different levels and different ways of helping yourself. And I could honestly talk to you all day, but we've somehow just chatted away and we're running out of time. So I'm going to ask you my last question, which I know you're not very keen on, but we're going to go for it. Do you have any recommendations for people? You know, podcast, books? What do you do? What do you do with your time? What do you look at?
Because I want to surround myself with just positivity, I tend to stick to happy ending books. So I would say I still read Cinderella and Beauty and the Beast. They're more a grown-up type of books that goes in that. So I would not read anything that is sad ending or tragic. Maybe bad, but that's the way I keep my mind on a positive. And the more difficult the day, the more I'm likely to read those sort of book. It's either that or I'm reading a psychology book or something to study or something on NLP. That's what I spend most of my days doing. But I would tell anybody that if you're feeling down, the worst thing you want to do is listen to sad music and sad books and stuff like that. And we do carry energy. Anytime I watch something sad, I feel the pressure. Something I never used to think about, but now I do actually feel the pressure.
I completely agree with you. It's what we're feeding our minds is so important. And, you know, we did kind of talk before, and that fantasy world is, you know, why shouldn't we have our minds in the space of magic and happy endings? The world can feed us so much negativity. We need to balance it somewhere.
Oh, yeah. I believe in energy now. That's why I came to you, because before I went through this whole change of alternate, I would not have appreciated shamanic work. But now, as I said, I now understand energy and I can actually feel it when, you know, I hardly watch the news. So if I watch the news and it's something really depressing, I can feel the weight of it. And so it's also what I do when I work with women who come to me and say they having depression. I actually ban them from social media, reading anything too heavy, and
Yeah.
you know, give your mind something different, open, like a new flower, something positive. Just feed it with positivity for a while, build your, you know, barriers up, and then yeah, you can open yourself to other things, but not too much of it. But you know, it's called protection. So
Definitely.
yeah. So read as much silly, fun fantasy book as you can. As I know.
Yes, this is we should definitely start a book club or something for fantasy books. Is, you know, mixing psychology or fantasy is definitely the way forward. Thank you so much for coming on here and talking to me today. Honestly, I could have carried on listening to you for the whole day and would have really gone for it. But I hope everyone that's listening found this as inspiring and insightful as I did. Remember, positivity isn't just a thing in a book. It's something you have to practice every day. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, whatever the button below tells you to do. And all Trish's details will be in the description. So I will see you all soon. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.